The Tropic Pianist Gamers podcast, episode 4, The Gamer Who Got Fit. Now traditionally, a gamer is assumed to be a teenage boy, locked in his bedroom, with his headphones on, talking to his virtual or imaginary friends, and doesn't mix much with the outside world. Therefore, I'm not your traditional gamer. I'm female, I'm an adult, and I'm a gamer. I'm a social gamer and a casual gamer. So I favour cooperative games, I favour the lack of competition, I prefer collaboration, and I brought that about as part of Nintendo North Wales, as the point of Nintendo North Wales is to bring like-minded people together in person to enjoy their multiplayer games together and socialise and get to know each other. I've made lifelong friends from that community and so have others, and it turned 10 this year. But as a gamer, it wasn't uncommon for gamers to not think about fitness at all. I was one of them originally. As a school student, you had to do physical education, so there was always some kind of fitness thing going on. When university life started, I joined the badminton club and I used to walk everywhere simply because I couldn't drive, and that kept me going for a few years. I wasn't overweight significantly, but I wasn't ever slim either. I was always a curvy teenager, I was a curvy late teenager, I was a curvy young adult. And yes, it bothered me. My self-confidence was zero, my self-esteem was zero. I thought I was ugly, I thought I was fat. And certain people used to comment about my weight fairly regularly, saying I could lose a bit of weight here, oh, I was looking a bit chubby there, oh, it was puppy fat, I'd grow out of it. That wasn't even from the bullies, that was sometimes my own family, and it always made me feel small and bad for myself. But I didn't think I could do anything about it because I was so busy trying to do everything else music-wise that I didn't really have time to think about going to other fitness things. It lasted until I met Dr. G. So Dr. G lived with a housemate who was a gym nut, and briefly he managed to persuade me to go to the gym. So I went to the gym and I signed up for the membership. I think I lasted a few months before dropping it. I had a 6 month membership and by the 6th month I'd given up. I simply found it too intimidating, so I gave up on that basis. A few years later I was working for the university and I got a special deal for their gym membership, so I started going to the gym after work and before my Welsh class. That kept up for about a term and then I got fed up of that and I was struggling in Welsh because I was tired all the time, and I had a gym buddy who was going with me but she dropped out, so then I followed. I did keep up badminton on and off as well over the years, but the games of badminton stopped abruptly at the beginning of 2014 when I injured my arm. I was known in badminton as the one at the front of the net who did all the slams, but my body eventually punished me for it, so I had to give up. I miss badminton, and I hope to get back into it one day. 2014 to 15 was the period of office job where I had a full salary and not enough time to live life. I was in the job, sleeping or eating, and not much in between. Of course, by these years, my gaming community had been running for a couple of years, so I was keeping up the gaming in the evenings where I could, when I wasn't too tired from the office job. But that wasn't fitness, that was Splatoon, that was Mario Kart, that was Tetris. None of them kept me active. The year after I got pregnant, and it just by coincidence happened that I became a sighted guide for a student that I saw through his undergrad, postgraduate and PGCE. And for his first year I was his walking taxi, so I easily did 10,000 steps a day without even thinking about it as part of my job. That kept me fit during pregnancy, and as a pregnant lady I was actually the fittest I'd probably ever been. But it wasn't to last, because as I became a mum, fitness went out of the window. I was struggling to survive on little sleep, although I did have Pilates classes running in the background, which I'd started at the end of 2014 after being referred by an injury specialist after I'd seen her for treatment about chronic back pain, which I'd been suffering for about 3 years at that point, and finally decided enough was enough and I needed to sort it out. Little did I know how linked chronic back pain was towards anxiety and depression and mental health in general. But I went to Pilates classes and it really helped me with my strength because the injury specialist suggested that I had weak core muscles, And Pilates classes had been going for a year and a half by the time I got pregnant. And by the time I was pregnant, the midwife exclaimed that I had really good core muscles, which I was not expecting to hear at all. And I believe my strong core muscles helped me get through the pregnancy. The pregnancy was as simple as it could be. There was no sickness, and the birth itself was quite easy, but that's a story for another day. During my pregnancy, I didn't put on any weight because I kept fit by all the walking. So by the time I gave birth, I was actually weighing slightly less than when I first got pregnant. I was pleased with that, but I also knew I was weak, and I didn't feel like I could do anything about it whilst I was a new mother. I was in survival mode for pretty much 2.5 years. My anxiety was creeping up and up, my mental state was going downhill, my physical state was going downhill, and by the end of the 2.5 years, we were hitting summer 2019, and 2019 was easily the worst year of my life for many reasons. It's the year I nearly lost everything, including myself. I actually ended up in hospital in September 2019, because I'd been trying to keep awake using sugar because I wasn't allowed caffeine due to high blood pressure, and the sugar was building up, and I ended up in hospital because I had sludge in my gallbladder. The hospital told me that I would have to have my gallbladder out, and there were no other options. I refused and had a complete meltdown there and then. The staff went away and discussed it, and they came back and said, if you change your lifestyle and never trigger it again, you may be okay, but if you trigger it again, we will request that you have your gallbladder out. So I thanked them through my tears and left quietly, agreeing to change my lifestyle whatever it took so I didn't get triggered again. I still have my gallbladder to this day. But if anyone has ever experienced gallbladder problems, you know how painful it is. I described it as worse than childbirth. That's how painful it was for me. But it also meant that over those 2 weeks where I couldn't eat properly, I actually managed to lose my craving for sugary sweet treats and chocolates and cakes and biscuits. I was already gluten-free and had been since 2009, but that made me stop wanting to cheat because I was gluten-free, but I had a weakness for certain things like cheesecakes, donuts and chocolate and sweets. The trigger points for me that landed me in hospital were actually jelly babies and a dark Terry's chocolate orange. To this day, I will still not buy a dark Terry's chocolate orange because of the fears that it may trigger me again. But September 2019, I had to drastically change my lifestyle, what I ate, what I did. And summer 2019 is when my visually impaired student graduated from his first degree. So he'd gone back home and I had no work in that sense. I was just a piano teacher and had nothing else for me at that time. October 2019, life changed. A game called Ring Fit Adventure came out, which was by Nintendo, so of course I had my eye on it, because in the years gone by, I loved Wii Fit, I loved Wii Fit U, I loved EA Active, which was on the Wii as well, and I used to play the games, but they were more novelty games, so I got bored after a month or two, and it never stuck with me long term. Ring Fit Adventure was designed as a long-term fitness game. It was a way of getting fit whilst battling monsters on quests and collecting ingredients for smoothies. It was right up my street as a video gamer, so it was a no-brainer that I pre-ordered it, and I was excited to get it. Because I knew that I had to change my lifestyle, I made that commitment to see it through long term, and a year after it released, I actually wrote an article on the Nintendo Players UK website about how it changed me for the better. And then 2 years later, I was interviewed by IGN, one of the big gaming websites, about how Ring Fit changed my life. So between October 2019 and about February 2020, I'd lost 13 kilograms or just over 2 stone. I did that simply by doing 30 active minutes in Ring Fit Adventure on Adventure Mode, 5 days a week, Pilates classes once a week, and then changing my diet to include less fat and less sugar and being more mindful of my portion sizes. It sounds simple, but the willpower and motivation to do it is often lacking. But I was so desperate not to end up back in hospital with a triggered gallbladder that I would have tried anything at that point. But I went down the sensible method of exercise and diet and did it without any special products, Any special treatments? Nothing. The only thing I did add to my diet was a bit of cider vinegar with a bit of apple juice. Now, people advising me did say the apple juice kind of cancels it out, but now I only have 100 millilitres of apple juice and 3 teaspoons of cider vinegar, and it works for me. It's like a little shot that I take after I've done my workout, and it's part of my routine. One of the other major changes I made to my diet was what I have for breakfast. My mum taught me how to make porridge with half water and half milk, and I switched from cow's milk to almond milk to make it less fatty. I also made it more interesting by adding various toppings, so to date I have golden flax seeds, a little bit of barley grass, some chia seeds, some flakes raw coconut, and some unsweetened dried cranberries. As far as food habits go and general habits in life, I'm one of these people who gets bored easily. Maybe I blame the Gemini in me, but anyway, I alternate between that and a fruit granola which has got cranberries, blueberries and raspberries in it, and alternating between that keeps me balanced and happy. I also changed up what I had for lunch as well. Being gluten-free meant the bread was often full of sugar and salt, more so than was needed, so I switched to pasta. So most lunchtimes, even now, I will have brown rice pasta with red lentil pasta, sometimes quinoa pasta, sometimes green pea pasta. Mix it up a bit, and I'll always have it with spinach, plum tomatoes, red pesto, and then a meat. So the meat varies from ham, chorizo, tuna, salmon, depending on what mood I'm in and which week it is. And that keeps me from getting bored of it. So I have that most days I'm at home, which was perfect for lockdown. The other thing I added to my diet was keeping it simple. So instead of craving chocolate and satisfying that craving, I got myself some Alpro Soya dark chocolate sort of yogurts. So I have one of them for tea to stop the chocolate craving. This was all perfect for lockdown mode when we had to be careful about what we ordered. Some things weren't always in stock, but I had my staples and I was good with them. It worked for me. But of course lockdown ended in mid-2021 and people started getting out there again. As I'd started my networking journey around the same time that Ring Fit Adventure came out in October 19, I was starting to network. I learned how to network properly during lockdown online, and when it was ready to go physical in person again, I was ready to network in person again. So here we are a year and a half later, having had lots of coffees and lunches and networking meetings and events across North Wales and some in Cheshire as well. It's been an epic year. But of course I have to rein in what I'm eating and balance that out with the appropriate exercise as well, which I've not been doing towards the end of 2022. But for someone who doesn't make New Year's resolutions, I have set the intention for 2023 to get back into my fitness routine and balance what I'm eating as well. So I'm currently doing Yoga with Adrienne's Yoga Challenge, which I did last January and was really successful with that, and went on to do a sponsored yoga challenge last June. So I'm hoping to maintain the yoga a bit more now. I had to stop Pilates classes in September, just gone, so September 2021, because I wanted to give up that afternoon for teaching slots. As in July 2022, I realised that my piano slots were now full and I wanted to give space for people who were new and wanted to inquire. So I now work Monday to Thursday as a piano tutor, offering slots from about 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 8 o'clock at night, and I'm nearly full again. But I do have a few slots available if anyone wants to inquire. I do teach online and in person. But anyway, back to the fitness topic. The benefit of Ring Fit Adventure was that it gave me that consistency. It infused those habits into me. It takes about 2 weeks to a month to gain a habit and keep it. And I was still playing Ring Fit Adventure 1 and 2 years later. It was that good for longevity. I'm not the only one who's played Ring Fit Adventure on the long term. I found people on Instagram and we compared notes with each other. There's a club on Facebook for Ring Fit Adventure. In that club on Facebook, there is a personal trainer who specialises in Ring Fit Adventure, who has a YouTube channel and puts out what custom lists suit what type of objective you're chasing. So I did his challenge last January, and I'm going to dip into it this January as well, but not every day, because I learnt that last year I was too overwhelmed with everything I had to do. Because January 2022, I was absolutely on fire with fitness. I put out a fitness challenge for my own Nintendo North Wales group, and about 10 of us took part in that, and I had a little graph in my file of facts which I coloured in every day. I was doing my Yoga with Adrienne yoga challenge for 31 days of January. I was doing Master Peter Trainer's Ring Fit Adventure challenge for January. And yeah, I was a bit overwhelmed with all that, because I also had hula hooping to take into account as well. So my fitness journey has exponentially grown since October 2019. I started with just Ring Fit, but that meant I didn't have to ever set foot in a gym. I did have weekly Pilates classes in the middle of Anglesey, but apart from that, everything else was done at home. And when lockdown hit and everything had to be online, I never needed to stop my fitness routine. In fact, I upped it to 7 days a week from 5 days a week, and it worked perfectly. I kept the consistency up, and there was no stopping me there. That was March 2020, of course. So by Boxing Day, I'd got fitness boxing as a game and started playing that. So that's rhythm and music boxing. Eventually, I got Knockout Home Fitness, which was in May 2022, just as my book launched. I also had Yoga Master in the background, so I mixed that up with my sponsored yoga challenge, doing a mixture of Yoga with Adrienne and Yoga Master on Nintendo Switch. And I had a bit of Zumba in the background as well. And today, I do mix them up. It depends what mood I'm in. I like a challenge now, so I did start doing a bit of park run last year. My aim was to do it once a month, but I kind of fell off the radar by the last quarter. So my intention for 2023 is to do average of one a month. Not necessarily one in each month, but equivalent to 12 in the year. I love parkrun because it's a free event and it's 5k, so it's a decent distance, but it's not too much effort because I was used to walking distances, just not running, so I can do it at my own pace and it's never too slow. My main objective is to beat the tail walker, and that's never been an issue. I do try and push myself, but I'm also aware that with high blood pressure I can't push myself too hard. But in November 2021 I got myself an Apple Watch Series 7 because I'd been wanting an Apple Watch for years. I had the 1 and 2 series, but I never wore it because I was afraid of wearing my best watch, as it were. Saving your best for what, exactly? So, Series 7, I made the point, I'm going to wear it every day, I'm going to track my fitness, and I'm going to close those rings. I was quite good at it for a while, but the watch itself sends you monthly challenges, and they were getting easier as the year progressed, so by the time December hit, I'd achieved the goal by the middle of the month, so I didn't have the motivation to push myself for the rest of the month. For 2023, I'm not going to rely on my Apple Watch to tell me what goals I need to achieve for the month. They help, sure, but they're not going to be my end motivation. I'm going to set my own goals. I already set monthly goals on paper. I do abstract art in a book, which I tag my inspirational people every month at the end when I've achieved them. I need to incorporate my fitness goals into that as well, so that's one new thing that I'll be doing in 2023. I should have already started, but I've got a lot of things to choose from. I've got the Pilates knowledge and equipment, I've got yoga, I've got Zumba, I've got Ring Fit Adventure, I've got fitness boxing, I've got Knockout Home Fitness, I've got hula hooping, and I've got parkrun to choose from. I hope to do a bit of everything, but day to day I need to be consistent with at least one or two of them. So I'll be doing yoga every morning for January and hula hooping in the evening in February. So I've already set those goals. So how do you get consistent with fitness if you're not already? Find something you love to do, no matter how weird it may seem. So me fighting monsters and bosses and stuff like a video game was the way for me to get into fitness. Some people just go to the gym and it's there, but if you're lacking that motivation, you need to find what you enjoy and do that. Don't do something just because you feel you have to, because it becomes a chore then, and no one loves a chore. Well, most people don't love a chore. I know someone who loves ironing. I won't mention their name. But anyway, yes. If you want any help with finding your passions or purpose, feel free to get in touch. Ask me any questions. Also, I'm on an app called Wisdom. If you want to know more about that, get in touch. I'm on there and you can ask me anything and I will reply with a voice memo. So hit me up on there if you're interested. Other than that, you can catch me on at Tropic Pianist Gamer on most social media platforms, and tropicpianistgamer.co.uk is my main website. I hope you enjoyed listening to my sort of fitness journey, and the next episode will hit us in February, so obviously it's got to be about love. But how did an anxious person get into 2 love triangles in her lifetime? You'll have to find out next month. See you then.